Well, Kenny Boxshall, 40 years as Stockport County's PA announcer, and a wonderful little tribute to your presentation at half time today. Tell us your emotions tonight.
I'm overwhelmed, really, to be quite honest with you, John. I don't seek a lot of publicity, but something like that happened at half time was absolutely fantastic. I was stuck for words, to be honest with you.
And that's not like you, because for 40 years you've been the voice of Edgeley Park. And I think what was lovely at half time, obviously the presentation, the shirt that you were given, but the reaction, I think, from the fans, that must mean a lot to you.
Absolutely, and I appreciate their support. I don't always get things right. We make the odd error. I did today, ironically. But it was fantastic, and I could barely carry on with the request, to be honest with you. I was struggling, I really was.
Tell us how it all started. 40 years, how did you get going?
Came here one Friday night. Pete Lamb, the assistant secretary, came to me. He said, "You're good at talking, can you do the tannoy tonight?" The guy who was doing it couldn't make it. He thrust a twin deck cassette box in my hands and a plug, and a 13 amp plug on the other end, and said, "If you plug it in a little hut upstairs, three glass sided hut," he said, "it'll work." And it just went from there, to be honest with you. I ain't got a clue what I was doing, really.
You've been here for so many of the big occasions that we've witnessed over the last 4 decades, but if you had to pick one game, one occasion, one time that really stands out for you, Kenny, what would it be?
It's difficult, John, because there's been so many, and I don't wish to sound negative about that. I suppose the one with the tramway when I said Jack Russell was the substitute stands out.
Because the dog had run on the pitch.
Somebody had thrown a dog over the hoardings. Used to happen a lot at some grounds, to be honest. That does stick out. I mean, a little bit of wit came out, and I milked it, obviously. But there's so many games. The Ian Dowie header, West Ham. There really is, John. I mean, I don't know how many games I've done. I'd have to look back. I've not missed many, but I cannot honestly pick one out that I say was a defining moment in my career.
And what some fans may not be aware of is you've never been paid for what you do. I think you may have been offered payment at some point, but you just turn it down constantly. You sometimes ask for a cup of tea or a ticket for an away match, but other than that, you've never taken anything out of the club. What is it that keeps you coming back?
Well, when I first started this, of course, the club was really on its backside. It's as simple as that. I was on the executive association, as it was then, raising money through race nights, phone-a-thons, real minor things to try and keep some funds coming into the club to keep it afloat, essentially. I've done all sorts of work here over the years on the ground with Eric Webster, absolutely myriads of different things. So when Peter Lamb gave me that box that night, payment never really came into my mind at all. In my mind, I was helping the club. It was further in it. If I didn't do it, who was going to do it? He'd have to try and find somebody else at 10 to 7 on a Friday night with a 7:30 kick-off in those days. So it just went from there, and because it was a voluntary thing, then it remains a voluntary thing.
And you've also, again, for fans who don't know, had a very successful career in the police as well, didn't you, for many, many years?
I did 30 years as a detective. Missed 1 or 2 games through work commitments, but not too many, to be honest, because I had a very understanding boss, and I could switch things around so that I could make sure I was here. But there were occasions, and I've sat outside this ground doing some observations one night on a Friday night. I think we're playing Colchester, a very, very windy night, and I couldn't get off work. I had to stick it out. And I was within a stone's throw of the ground, the floodlights, the noise. And I think we were losing, you'd have to check this, but we were losing at half time, and then we changed round and the wind was in our favour, and I think we ended up winning. But that was just one example, but the majority of the time I did get time off or finished in time.
You've seen some great players here over these 4 decades. You've seen some bloody awful ones as well, but you've seen some great players over the last 40 years. I know it's an unfair question, but I've got to ask it. Who stands out for you? Who's been your favourite player over that time?
Well, I think I've got to go back to the 80s, really,
Yeah.
John, having thought about this. And the person who does stand out is a lad called Tommy Sword. That's no disrespect to the likes of Mike Flynn, Sean Connolly, Lee Todd, Peter Ward, David Frayne, who I got to know quite well over the years, because there was a lot of interaction with the staff in those days.
Yeah.
Slightly different now with the social media the way it is. But Tommy does stand out as a standout defender. Came here as a striker from Durham way. I can't remember the name of who he played for. A great player, great character. See him now and again. He comes as a guest, and he's just somebody I've kept in touch with loosely through the years.
In terms of managers, I mean, you mentioned Eric Webster earlier, and of course, I mean, what are you? I used to come and interview him, and he'd be driving a tractor up and down the pitch. But in terms of managers, who stands out for you?
Dave Jones.
Yeah.
Danny, of course. Gary Ablett.
Yeah, lovely guy, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Gary Megson, I couldn't really take to Gary. Strange character. Mind you, Danny had his moments. I've had a couple of fallouts with him over one or two bits and pieces. He was right, in actual fact, I was wrong. But they're the standout ones, really. Is Eric Webster, as you say, used to do everything here, and I used to come and help him do the ground, and cleared all under here, under this main stand, which was full of rubbish post Bradford fire, of course. Yeah. And but Jonesy, I like Jonesy because he's a very cool, calm, collected man. I used to like the way he just leant on the side of the dugout and never really moved or said anything. Yeah. But again, Danny, he was good. Yeah, I think David Jones and Danny.
So 40 years, you're showing no signs of slowing, I'll be honest, and you're down on the pitch at half time, you're as busy as ever, and no thoughts of jacking it in.
I don't think so, John, really, to be honest with you. I do enjoy it most of the time. I don't mind making the odd error. I did it today. I was asked to announce
the time was off.
Quarter to 2, and it was. I said quarter.
Don't
to
worry,
3.
I did the same.
Did you? Oh, brilliant! Well, they're so quick rounding about you, to have a pop, in a nice way, And if somebody shouts, and he said, 2 o'clock. I said, right, leave it with me. So you just make light of that and just correct it, don't you? I've no intentions of slowing down. I'm here for as long as the club wants me.
We never want to lose you. Kenny, many, many thanks. Congratulations as well.
Thank you,
40
John.
years at Edgeley Park. Well done.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you.